Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. My name's Kemal Onor, and I'm your host. Now, if this is your first time, I highly recommend you consider subscribing, drop a like, leave a comment, help this channel grow. It means a lot. Now, this video is going to be a combination of topics that I want to touch on. It's mainly going to be why it's important to identify and know your audience. Because editors and agents don't want to read in your query letter, "This book will appeal to everyone." Because you are casting too wide of a net, and most likely your book will not appeal to everyone. It's impossible. No book will ever appeal to everyone. So when you state this in your query letter, it comes off as amateurish. So editors and agents want to see that there is a market for whatever book you're writing. Essentially, it means, what is your niche? So this is one of the main reasons why it's so vital to know who you're writing for and to know your audience. And then the second topic that I'm combining in with this video is the idea of writing for yourself, because it's also so important to know when you should be writing just for yourself and when you're writing for an audience and when it's time to shift from one to the other. So this is what we're talking all about on Spooky Writes today. Now, I've mentioned this before, that I believe it's important to have writing that is just for yourself, to have writing that you're not going to share with anyone, to have writing that is not meant for publication. It's so important to have this type of writing. It's important to have writing that's just for your eyes only. Because what this is going to do for you, especially early in your writing journey, is it's going to take the pressure off your shoulders. It's going to allow you to write because you want to free yourself up to write. Because early on, you need to produce writing that is you attempting to find your voice. You need to figure out what types of stories you want to write, what types of stories interest you, what type of characters do you like to write, what is your style, what is your voice, what genre do you even want to write in, what genre do you want to write in. These are all important things, and you only find this by doing a lot of writing. And this is writing that is going to be, typically it's going to be writing that is so bad that you just want to keep it for yourself. The last thing you want to do is to have the fear of perfection stop you from ever starting. Because rough drafts are meant to be rough. Rough drafts are meant to be messy. They should be bad. They should be things that you want to keep hidden and just bury away in a shoebox and only tease as an incentive to get more subscribers on your YouTube channel. Almost there, by the way. Because early on in your writing career, early on in your writing journey, it's so important to allow yourself the opportunity to make mistakes, to write whatever comes to mind. You have to just write as much as possible. And if you feel that you are if you're constantly getting stymied, if you're constantly saying, no, I can't do it because I'm not meeting certain expectations, this is going to prevent you from enjoying writing. And you have to enjoy writing if you're going to stick with it. Writing has to be enjoyable at some base level. Otherwise, why would you want to pursue writing? I'm not saying that you keep all your writing secret. I'm not saying that you write incognito or that you don't tell people that you're actually writing. And don't go around expecting people to want to read your work, because early on your writing is going to be so rough and you're going to be writing work that isn't your voice. You're going to be imitating authors that you enjoy. You're going to be imitating movies. You're going to be doing all this writing that is not essentially you. And by doing all this writing that is not essentially you, it allows you to chip away at figuring out who you are as an author and who you are as a writer. Because even though you might think that you have an idea that's brilliant, and many of us have ideas that we think are brilliant, and that's what gets us to start pursuing a story, or gets us to start pursuing a novel. And I did a video all about why you should avoid the novel trap. It'll be linked somewhere up here. But early writing is something that many authors will look back at and they'll cringe at, or they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, I could have done it so much better, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And so if you're writing without your voice, if you're writing before actually doing the hard work of writing a lot of bad stories, of writing a lot of filler that just needs to get out of you, if you've never taken a writing class in your entire life, if you haven't watched these videos, selfless plug right there, but you need to learn the craft of writing. And you can do this by going to a traditional program, or you can do it just by reading as much as you possibly can, by absorbing books, by writing as much as you possibly can, and both will teach you immensely about the craft of writing. I look back at some of my early publications from when I just started submitting work, and I think, oh my goodness, this should have been done so much better, and it could have been done so much better. I'm not saying that you need to stop yourself from submitting, because I think it's important to develop that practice as well. And here and there you will get acceptances, but I look at some of the stuff that I've had published even as recent as 6 months to a year ago, and I think my skills as an author, my skills as a writer has improved so much from when I wrote that story, that I'm no longer that same writer. And you have to evolve as an author. You have to continue to evolve, and every time you learn something new, every time you read another book, you'll continue to improve as an author. You'll continue to improve as a writer. The more that you do it, the better you'll get at it. And you'll look back at some of the stuff that you were writing 3 months, 6 months ago, and you'll just say, oh, I could have done this so much better. And one of the things that I enjoy about looking at my publishing track is that when I look at my publishing track, I see that there's a clear progression in my writing. As each story that I get published, it's better and better and better, and this is what pushes me to write and submit better stories on each round that I do of sending my stories out. Most of the times when I look back at some of my publications, it's the small things that stand out to me. It's perhaps an awkward sentence here. It's a character that I didn't fully flesh out. It's a piece of dialogue that doesn't seem real to me now that I'm looking at it with so much time to reflect and looking back at this publication. Now, this doesn't mean that I've ever submitted subpar stories. I've always submitted stories that are the best to my ability, and I try to write stories that are to the best of my ability at a given point in time. But I know 10 years down the road, I'm going to be a completely different writer. I know I'm going to be a much better writer. I know 6 months from now, I'm going to be a better writer. I'm going to continue to improve as an author. With each submission, with each acceptance, I'm going to improve and continue to try and strive to write better and better stories. And this is what Hemingway says when he says, we are all apprentices in a craft that has no masters. So there's no end point to being an author. You write and you continue to improve and you work on getting better, and early writing has to be for yourself. Don't show it to other people, because other people will do their best to talk you out of trying to pursue writing. They'll compare you to famous authors, and this is going to be a detriment to you. You need to find enjoyment of writing, and you need to just write for yourself in the early stages of your career. And so early in my career as an author, as a writer, when I was just writing for myself, I didn't tell anyone that I was writing. I didn't share my writing with anyone. I didn't go to people and say, read the story that I wrote. I was writing novels. I was making that mistake of falling into the novel trap. I was writing these ridiculous fantasy fiction novels that have no business ever seeing the light of day. But I was writing, and I was enjoying this act of writing, but I didn't tell anyone that I was pursuing writing. I would write in secret, and that's what you have to do early on. And it was only when I happened to mention it to a friend that I had written 3 novels. And at the time I was in college and I was a music major, and I told her how I would just quickly do my music homework so that I could just write. And again, I was writing not for assignments. I wasn't writing for a course. I wasn't writing because anyone wanted me to write. I was writing for myself because I had a story that I felt I needed to tell. I had an idea for a novel that I needed to share. Looking back, I wish I'd been writing short stories, and I'll always remember that she was the first person to ever suggest to me that I change my music major to that of creative writing. And that idea had never occurred to me before. It had never occurred to me to pursue creative writing as a major, to pursue it as a degree. I'd always had this identity that I wanted to be a musician and that I wanted to pursue music, because I was just writing for fun. These were just stories. This was just for fun. This was something that I just did in my spare time. I was just writing 100,000 plus documents because it was something that I just enjoyed to do. Because it's so important for you to work in darkness, because so many people will try and persuade you to stop doing something that you enjoy just because you're not making millions of dollars at it. And I wasn't writing for publication at this time. I was writing just because I wanted to write. I was writing just for myself, and this is something that is so vital, especially early in your career and throughout your writing time. There will be stories that you will write just for yourself, and stories that you and stories that will only be for your eyes only. Because people will try to discourage you from doing anything if you're not instantly good at it, and people are not born instantly good at writing. Every author starts having to learn grammar. Every author starts out somewhere, and it's a progression of time and putting in the effort, putting in the work, writing for yourself, having writing that you're not sharing with the world, writing in darkness, and then eventually when you get to the point where you can confidently say, these are stories that are worthy of being put out into the world. Because the truth is, 100% of the famous people in this world at one point were unknown. And so as you get into writing for yourself, you then need to start to identify your audience. Once you get to a point where you are confident and able to present your writing to the world, when you're opening up the doors and letting the light in, when you're letting other eyes see your work, you need to know who you're writing for. You need to identify your audience, and you can't go in saying, my writing is for everyone. You need to niche down, or is it niche down? It's one of them. You have to know your audience, and in order to know your audience, you first have to know yourself. Don't write a novel for everyone. Instead, write a novel for you, and over time, figure out your audience. And as always, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking all the way through the video. Pumpkins lined the road, and each one was blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.